Hello everyone, Namaste and welcome to SK Talks. Today we will be discussing about a very interesting topic. Does Kundalini exist? Have you ever wondered if human consciousness is far more powerful than we realize? What if, hidden deep within every one of us, there exists a dormant force, something ancient, intelligent, and potentially transformative? For thousands of years, spiritual traditions have spoken about a mysterious energy known as Kundalini. Some people see it as mythology, others believe it is symbolic, and for many spiritual seekers, it represents one of the deepest possibilities of human awakening. But the question remains, does Kundalini actually exist? According to yogic philosophy and tantra, human beings are far more than the physical bodies and thoughts. Ancient teachings describe us as a living system of energy, consciousness, and awareness. These traditions speak about two fundamental forces constantly moving within us, often described as the energies of mind and body, stillness and action, inner and outer experience. When these opposing forces become balanced, something extraordinary is said to happen. A dormant channel awakens, and through it, a hidden energy begins to rise. This energy is called Kundalini. It is often described as a sleeping force resting at the base of the spine, not ordinary energy, but a deeper life force connected to consciousness itself. Those who speak about Kundalini say that when it awakens, perception begins to change. Awareness expands. Identity shifts. People describe feeling more alive, more connected, and sometimes profoundly transformed. Some compare it to a rocket waiting silently on a launch pad. From the outside, everything seems still. Nothing dramatic appears to be happening, but beneath the surface, immense power is waiting. And once ignition begins, life is never experienced in quite the same way again. People who describe Kundalini awakening often speak about overwhelming clarity, heightened awareness, deep peace, intense energy, or moments of profound joy. For some, it feels like waking up from a kind of sleep they never realized they were in. Not just self-improvement, but something closer to inner transformation, or even spiritual rebirth. But this is where things become more complicated. How do we talk about something that seems to exist beyond ordinary experience? Modern science asks important questions. Can Kundalini be measured? Can spiritual awakening be observed in a laboratory? Researchers look for neurological explanations. Doctors search for biological patterns. Psychologists study altered states of consciousness. And understandably, many people remain skeptical. After all, without direct experience, ideas about expanded awareness can sound abstract, even unbelievable. Yet across history, something interesting appears again and again. People from different cultures, different countries, and completely different time periods have described surprisingly similar experiences. Sensations of energy moving through the body, feelings of inner heat, moments of deep stillness, sudden clarity, profound peace, expanded awareness. So, many ancient cultures developed practices to reach these altered states through breathwork, meditation, movement, silence, chanting, or rituals. Even though the language differed, the experience often sounded strangely familiar. Could they all have been describing the same underlying phenomenon? Or is there something about human consciousness we still don't fully understand? Another important idea found in spiritual traditions is this: Kundalini is not described as a personal power. It is not something to control, own, or conquer. Instead, it is often described as a universal force, something much larger than the individual self, like gravity, like the invisible force holding galaxies together. The teaching suggests that Kundalini is not something we create, it is something we awaken to, and perhaps that distinction matters. Because spiritual traditions also warn about misunderstanding the experience, mistaking awakening for superiority, confusing inner experience with ego, or believing we fully understand something that may be far greater than us. Those who describe Kundalini awakening often speak in symbols. They talk about currents rising through the spine, waves of heat, electric sensations, a serpent-like movement, a flame, a sudden rush of energy. But beyond the symbols, one theme appears repeatedly. Something changes. The way people experience themselves changes. The way they see life changes. Awareness becomes different. And often people say they never see the world quite the same way again. So, maybe the real question is not simply whether Kundalini exists. Maybe the deeper question is this: what if human consciousness is still evolving? What if there are dimensions or awareness we have barely begun to explore? Since science has not fully answered these questions, mystics say direct experience is the only real proof. Skeptics continue asking difficult questions. Seekers continue searching. And perhaps both are important, because maybe Kundalini is not something we should blindly believe, but neither is it something we should dismiss too quickly. Maybe it's an invitation to explore consciousness more deeply, to understand ourselves more honestly, to move beyond limitations. And perhaps the greatest mystery is not whether Kundalini exists, but what humanity might become if it does. Because sometimes the greatest journeys are the ones taken inward.